Joining us now, Alfredo Ortiz. He is the CEO and president of the Job Creators Network, the engine that could, would, and got it done. It is we just had Dr. Catalina Lindley from Croatia. It's just unbelievable what she just outlined for us. We get these doctors on. I mean, the thing that is riveting to me is her son needs an MRI. She has insurance, right? I mean, she's, a doctor. Right? She has, big time insurance, right? Insurance, $2,500. She has to pay a deductible. $500, right? To get the MRI. She shops at cash. Same location, same place, same machine, same doctor. $400 cash. And she said, if I felt like driving an hour, I could have got it for $250. Yet the insurance is going to charge $2,500. And you want to know what is wrong with our system today? It's unbelievable. Joining us now, though, we want to talk about the Democratic debate and Medicare for all, whatever else they were talking about, is Alfredo Ortiz. Alfredo, great to have you, man.
Hey, John, great to be here. Happy Friday. And I have to tell you, those debates, what was the best thing about those debates, John?
What?
Was that I did not have to take my melatonin that night. Because, man, I have to tell you, those were probably one of the most boring debates, actually, that they've had so far. But the same crap, right, just kind of kept getting pumped out. Excuse my language, but boy, it's just, they are so out of touch, so clueless. It's unbelievable. But yeah, it's amazing how they're rolling this stuff out, and they just don't get it.
Well, I tell you what, my friend Raheem Kassam, who does the War Room here with Steve Bannon, called it the Democratic struggle bus pulls into Atlanta. I thought that was a funny line because it's almost kind of sad how bad they are. Now we have a new Emerson poll out. Look, I predicted Bernie Sanders is going to be the nominee from the beginning, right? A lot of people wrote him off. Now we get a new Emerson poll out. Just when you thought he was done, guess who is surging now? Bernie Sanders. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I know you and I think we have a steak dinner on this one, don't we? If
yes,
I remember correctly.
Yes.
I look, if the Dems were actually smart, truthfully, they need to pick somebody who's more of a centrist, right? Because at the end of the day, I would love it to be Elizabeth Warren. I'll be honest with you. I think we win hands down. It's a landslide victory for the president if it's Elizabeth Warren.
I agree.
So from that perspective, hopefully they're not listening to your show because this is the advice that I'd be giving them is you got to choose somebody who's more centrist. That radical left is just not going to work. This country is not ready for that. Look what's happening in all the polls for the Medicare for all. It's completely going away. They're walking away from it. Warren now is kind of, changing it up a little bit, this 3-year phase in, which, by the way, I was like, what was she talking about that? At the end of the 3 years, then we're going to vote on it? I mean, I'm like, what are you talking about? You would have already been president. We would have already voted on it because that's your idea. I mean, the whole thing, just you sit there and you just start scratching your head, right, John? And you go, what are these guys thinking about?
Crazy. It's crazy. So let's just go down. I want to get your opinion here. Of the candidates in the race now, this is notwithstanding a Hillary might jump in, but of the candidates in now, including Bloomberg, who just filed today with the FEC, so Bloomberg's in. So of all the candidates in, including Bloomberg, Patrick Deval, former governor of Massachusetts, who would be the toughest for Trump to beat?
It's Biden.
See, I think it's Bloomberg. Now, I don't think he's going to be the nominee, but I think Bloomberg presents a lot more problems because he is a centrist. But you know what?
But you know what, John? A frozen popsicle has more personality than Bloomberg. I mean, seriously. I mean, that's just, I'm sorry. I mean, it's probably rude to say, but look, you do a kind of focus group the guy. I mean, he's one of the most boring, stiff guys I've ever seen. Even when he smiles, you can't tell he's smiling. So I don't know. I don't.
A frozen popsicle. I'm trying to get the image in my mind. All right, so let's get to Biden though. I mean, I did watch the debate because I have to. And how do you have a guy as a nominee, Alfredo, who really can't get a sentence out?
Well, And that is the problem. I mean, I think, and that is why I think people are struggling in the Democratic Party, because they're starting to panic, right? They're starting to freak out, because I think they deep down know there has to be someone like a Biden to beat the president. I mean, obviously Pennsylvania becomes an issue, right? You and I both realize that.
Yeah.
It'd be tough to beat Uncle Joe in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, he would likely win Pennsylvania.
So that's a challenge. The Rust Belt would be a challenge as well. Everybody, there's Uncle Joe. Everybody has an Uncle Joe. Everybody likes Uncle Joe.
Right.
But you're right. I mean, it's problematic because he can't put a sentence together, or he has these gaps. I mean, you remember him was talking about women's rights, and you shouldn't strike a lady, and then he goes, "We're going to fight it all out," and I'm sitting there and they're all laughing all around him.
We got to keep punching.
Yeah, we got to keep punching or something, and it gets to the point where you almost start feeling sorry for the guy. But again, I think that's the struggle. I think that's why you have, Hillary Clinton now saying, she may jump in, and, you start hearing things about Michelle Obama popping in. Remember, you and I also talked about the possibility of a wild card, being it. And then, of course, maybe in the end, it's a broker convention.
Well, that could be. Look, there's a flavor of the week. I mean, first Biden had the lead. Then we heard Elizabeth Warren was surging. Then last week we heard Mayor Pete was surging. Now we hear Bernie Sanders is surging. So what that tells you is the race is in flux, and Democratic voters and activists are looking for an alternative, or they're looking for something, or they haven't made their minds up. So this thing is very much in flux. And of course, every Trump supporter's nightmare is that Michelle Obama parachutes in Milwaukee in a brokered convention, and they turn to her and she saves the day. Because again, I say this every time you're on, but I want to keep saying it. The way the Democratic rules are written is on the first ballot, there's no superdelegates. But as soon as it gets to ballot number 2, superdelegates come into play. And the Democratic Establishment Party did that to ensure that the adults in the room would take control in a brokered situation. So if I've got a 1 delegate vote, and I'm a Democratic delegate from Maryland, right? I go to a second ballot. My vote is worth 1/2 of what it was the former ballot. Right?
Yeah.
And then the superdelegates take over, and they're going to determine in the back room who the nominee is.
Well, and imagine this ticket right here. I've had this scenario floating through my head, which is a little bit scary, but imagine an Obama-Buttigieg ticket. That could be...
that would be scary.
Yep. But we know we've got some great things on our side, though, right? I mean, again, just shifting back to the economy because, look, they spend about 5 minutes out of an entire 2-hour debate focused on issues that really impact the American public and people really care about, especially small business owners, right, which are Job Creators Network. That's what we're about, right? We're about small business owners. When you look at, first of all, how people are feeling, our small business owners, they're very optimistic. Gallup actually just released a poll, John, recently. Mm-hmm. Nearly 2/3 of those say that the economy is excellent or good, but 70% of them also said that Democratic candidates are not discussing the issues most important to them. And we saw it live on stage. Right. 5 minutes basically spent on talking about the issues that matter most to small business owners. Taxes, which unfortunately when they do talk about taxes, about raising them. Right. Healthcare is the second most important issue. And when they talk about healthcare, it's about taking away the private insurance of 200 million people in our country. And then the economy. And guess what? They don't want to talk about the economy because it's all good, right? Record low unemployment, record low inflation. Interest rates finally, thank goodness, the Federal Reserve finally got their act together and set the rates where they're supposed to do, which is down. Wage growth is up, above 3%. When you look at the job growth and jobs, they're abundant. There are help wanted signs still every single place where I look. I can't avoid running into a help wanted sign. And so of course the Democrats are that's the last thing they want to talk about. They spent about 20 minutes, I think, talking about climate change, which is crazy. And that's like the last thing, for example, that small business owners care about. And so, again, they're so out of touch with reality, so out of touch with what the American public, with the everyday person that you and I talk to day in and day out really care about.
Well, they're believing their own lie, and I'm going to get to that when I get back. I got to go to quick word from our sponsors here on the John Fredericks Radio Network. We're with Alfredo Ortiz. He's President CEO, Job Creators Network. We're talking jobs. And the big lie that the Democrats are now believing themselves, which is going to bite them in the butt. I'll be with that with Alfredo when I get back. Keep it right here.
So a politician, a bureaucrat, and a lobbyist all walk into a hospital room. They say, "Don't worry, we're from Big Medicine. We're here to help." You know what I'm talking about? Somebody asked me about Medicare for all the other day, and I said, "Don't you mean mediocre for all?"
The problems with government-run healthcare would be comical if they weren't true. The big government fixes of Obamacare haven't worked, creating skyrocketing costs for America's families. And Medicare for All would take an already broken system and make it worse. Americans want a system that restores the doctor-patient relationship and offers personalized healthcare, not a one-size-fits-all program offered by the government. Find out how we can solve this problem at healthcareforyou.com.
Well, what's the difference between American healthcare and Canadian healthcare? A 3-month wait, eh? You know what I'm saying?
Paid for by Job Creators Network Foundation.
Don't touch that dial. You found your home of the truth.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
With the best analysis in America.
You can't handle the truth.
And now back to the John Fredericks Show.
You got him. We're live, TGIF. We're live in your nation's capital, Steve Bannon's basement, Breitbart Embassy. Bannon War Room coming up with Raheem Kassam and Jason Miller. They'll be breaking down yesterday's fiasco. That'll be at 9 to 10 a.m. here on the John Fredericks Radio Network. And we are in the War Room basement now with Alfredo Ortiz, the President CEO of the Job Creators Network. Alfredo, for 2 years, the Democrats ran around saying that the tax cut didn't affect middle America, that it was only for big corporations and the rich. But now the problem is they're actually believing their own rhetoric because they're all on the stage saying they're going to eliminate the Trump tax cut and raise taxes. The problem is millions and millions and millions of middle-income Americans have seen the benefit of the tax cut, and they're looking forward to it again this April. This is in the tens of millions. And the Democrats don't seem to understand that they actually believe it didn't affect anybody except rich people. I mean, I must have had 100 listeners in the last 3 or 4 months tell me what a huge difference in their life this tax cut meant. I don't think the Democrats on that stage even understand it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I was actually just with several governors over the past few days, and I'll tell you, one of them, a manufacturing facility relocated from China actually into his state. And the CEO of that company said specifically the reason why they did it is because of the new Tax Cut and Jobs Act. And that had something like 10,000 jobs or something. I mean, that was coming to the state. I mean, these are real numbers. That's what I'm saying. They don't want to talk about the economy because the numbers are just so darn good. Again, with a record low unemployment, abundant job growth, I think we're at 1.5 million more jobs than are people available now to fill them. I mean, it's unbelievable. And John, I know you and I have also talked about Hispanics, for example. I want to talk about that for a little bit because I think I'm going to keep on saying this, I think, until the Wednesday right after the election, because I continue to believe that Hispanics are going to be one of the biggest demographics that's going to bring Trump home for a reelect. When you look at Hispanic-owned businesses, for example, this year alone, they are up 50% in terms of growth in their companies, and that's on top of a 25% growth from last year. So these businesses are humming, and that just translates right into the Hispanic households, for example. If you look at net new home ownership last year, 65% of that was due to Hispanics having new homes. Basically, 65% of that. Approval ratings are over 50% now for President Trump amongst the Hispanic demographics. I focus on that because I think I'm going to laugh when the Democrats sit there and start crying when they go, "What happened? I thought these guys hated Trump, because of the wall and immigration and all this stuff." They don't understand that jobs in the economy is one of the most important things to the Hispanic population. And in fact, a poll conducted by Unidos US, which was formerly called National Council of La Raza, it's a left-leaning organization, point blank in their poll said the number one issue that's relevant to Hispanics is jobs and the economy. And guess what? We're doing great. Hispanics are doing fantastic. Record low unemployment. Like I said, net home ownership is up. Everything is up for Hispanics. And so, but that translates to every single demographic group, John, like you just said. Right. Every single millions and millions of Americans across this country are feeling that. When you look at Target and Walmart, if we can talk about 2 seconds on those recent earnings reports, they look great. Right, Target and Walmart, and those are bellwether stocks that is directly representative of consumer sentiment in this country.
Right. Yes.
They were doing fantastic, and so when you look at these kinds of indicators, the economy is going to continue to hum. And now that interest rates are coming down, you see actually the most recent report on permits for building permits for housing. They're going back up, right? Because rates are starting to come back down, right? So people, again, are starting to feel optimistic. And I'm telling you, this is going to be one of the best holiday seasons I'm predicting that we're going to see 4 to 4.5%, I think, versus the previous year.
You really think that this holiday season is going to set a record?
You know what? I think so, John. I mean, I think people are feeling great. People have more money to spend. The stock market continues to set records almost every single day. They are feeling great going into this holiday season.
Well, all the numbers that we've seen and heard, it's all positive. It's all heading up. Let me just ask you one thing. I know you predicted Biden's going to be the nominee. I'm predicting Sanders. Okay, we got a steak dinner bet on that. You also had a very bold prediction that every time you get on, I think about it, and you said that President Trump in 2020 reelect is going to carry 40. That's 40 of the Hispanic vote. Do you still believe that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and just to correct a little bit, it was 38 to 40%. So I'm giving myself a little bit of
38. Okay, 38. I'll give you 38%. I'll give you that.
But it's about 10 points better than he did last time. And remember, he did better than Romney already once before. And again, when you look at how households are doing in the Hispanic segment, in the Hispanic demographic, they're doing fantastic. Hispanic-owned businesses are doing fantastic.
Right.
They understand that President Trump is a business person, knows how to manage the economy. They're walking in, they're owning more homes, they're having more income in their pockets. I'm telling you, it's going to be 38 to 40% of the Hispanic vote is my prediction, my personal prediction. And people may call me crazy, and maybe they'll call me crazy the Wednesday after, but that I'm sticking with it.
Well, I love the prediction. I'm not going to bet against it because I do want it to happen. But we do have the Morton's or I think Ruth Chris steak dinner bet on. I still think Sanders is going to be the nominee, and I think it's going to be a little bit tougher to beat than meets the eye because Biden presents problems, right? Biden wins Pennsylvania. Sanders is going to pick one of those Midwestern states off. Certainly, he'll have a shot in Michigan and a couple of the others, but we'll see. It's a long slog, and maybe Hillary Clinton parachutes in. Don't count her out either. But I got to go. I'm out of time. Alfredo Ortiz, thank you for being with us, President CEO of the Job Creators Network. Go to healthcareforyou.com, healthcareforyou.com. This is the company that went to 25,000 people in America and developed a healthcare plan from the grassroots bottom up. Unbelievable. Now the White House has adopted it, and they're going to take it as their campaign, a piece of their campaign reelect going into 2020. Fantastic. Alfredo, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for being with us.
You too, John.